Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
What's up, everybody? This is your co host, Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror loving cinephile. I'm just your average podcast producing badass.
I'm John Thomas. Some would say that I go a little too far with my love of all things horror, paranormal, and meta, but I say, talk nerdy to me, and I'm all yours.
I'm BJ Sewura, an aspiring paranormal musician who plays live for the dead because the living just doesn't want to hear me.
The Dead of Winter Horror Network and It Came from the 508 Productions invite you to endure the most terrifying immersive experience in all of podcasting. Beneath the Red Umbrella, now available wherever you listen to podcasts. Beneath the Red Umbrella, when the snow falls, the killing season begins.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and all of my folklore loving pals out there? Today we're diving into North African folklore, international horror, and Moroccan exorcisms. Joining us in this discussion is special guest Chakira, based out of France. Welcome to the show, Chakira.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me. I can't wait to have this discussion with you.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on.
Thanks. And I will do my best to make an effort for my pronunciation and my English because, as you can hear, I have a thick French accent.
Well, you're doing great. And we
Thank you.
appreciate that you are
Thank you,
willing
Ashley.
to. Yeah, we appreciate you're willing to come on to talk to us too. So don't even worry about it. So, first question that we usually come out the gate with is how you know people from 3Haunted. So, your connection is with BJ, and do you guys want to tell us how you know each other?
Correct. BJ, do you want to start? Well, maybe I will because I ran to him at the Colorado Horror Festival in 2023, right?
I think so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was having this amazing cosplay about one of the most horrific scenes from Nightmare on Elm Street 3, I think. Is it the 3, BJ?
Yep.
Or the 4? So yeah, he was representing this scene where one of the teenager, he's just like, how to say that? He's like represented as a puppet with his veins used as the string to make him walk, etc. And I mean, this scene was just mesmerizing for me when I was a kid and I watched it. And I just forget about it. And then I saw BJ with this amazing cosplay, and I just like ran to him, telling him how much I was traumatized as a kid by this scene and how much I loved his cosplay, and that he should definitely win. And I think he won one of the prize, so I was satisfied. Like, good job.
Yeah, I came in third, but it was fine because the third place trophy was a 3D printed it was like they were all like baby Yodas, right? You know, the Grogu or whatever, but they were but the third place one was like Freddy Krueger as Grogu, which was perfect because I was like, oh, that's the one I wanted anyway. There was like a ghost faced one, and then there was like a Jason one, and I think there was a Michael Myers. I think he was the one that got first place, but it was really cool. Um, but yeah, like we met then, and then we just started talking about like paranormal stuff and horror movies, and we just kind of just stayed in touch for a while after that, and then I went to your wedding, which was really really cool. And then we just started. I just asked her one day, to come on the podcast. For ours now is Tales from the Drive-In, and now in this second season, we're going to be doing a lot of these episodes together, and um, yeah, we just have that vibe that's all about folklore, talking about paranormal stuff as well as the horror genre, and yeah, and it's nice to be able to connect with somebody that's not necessarily that has a different perspective, right, than just the people here in America, and I really appreciate that about her. So
Yeah, that's really neat. I remember what you're talking about, Shakira, because he posted pictures of the cosplay that he was
Yeah,
doing from the Dream Warriors movie, and I loved it. Like that was super creative to have like the veins and the blood and
yeah.
the like you said, the marionette. That scene is so iconic,
Hmm.
and to be able to replicate that in a cosplay, extremely difficult, but like he succeeded. It was really neat to
Yeah,
see.
right. I mean, when you saw the cosplay, you understand immediately what it is, because if you watch Pretty Cookers, there is no way that you are indifferent to this scene.
I mean, we all, I think, for anybody that hasn't seen that, like, shame
Mm.
on you, watch it. But like, just the idea of your veins being pulled out of your body and you're being pulled around a building by your veins, that's terrifying.
Yeah, and it's so innovative and new. I mean, we tend
Yes.
to see always the same thing currently. When you watch our movies, always the same thing on repeat. I mean, the makeup may be different, but the idea are always the same. But what I loved about the Freddy Krueger saga, I mean, each scene was super different and unique and terrifying, because it was, small part of our life, like the bath scene. You can refer to that, or the scene, in the TV when
Hmm.
the girl is like put straight inside the TV. So
Pulls her up and in.
yeah,
What is it? He says, "Welcome to prime time, bitch."
yeah. And then you finish the Nightmare on Elm Street, and you look at your house and every object or moment of your life, like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, even though some parts of it take place in like a sanitarium and hospitals, and the choices that they make for it to take place, he's haunting them in their beds, he's pulling them into TVs and bathrooms, like you said, those are common places. So nowhere in your house is safe.
There is a scene, I think, in a high school or something like
Yes,
that. Like, even
yes,
surrounded by people or by a teacher, you are still not safe because Freddy is looking and waiting for you.
yeah, you're safe nowhere. Now, for you, that's obviously those are iconic scenes from American horror. Do you have horror films that you grew up on, like international, where you're? Because I think, did you grow up in France?
Yeah, born and raised, and
Okay,
my parents are Moroccan, so
okay.
they arrived in France when they were a teenager. And so, yeah, born and raised in France, but also I mean, we were going to Morocco every year with my family. So I kind of have this double culture
Hmm.
that is very different, and also very close, because French has colonized Morocco for years and years. But also, it's two different countries. I mean, two different religions, two different way of living. So I kind of have, like, I have so many things scary in France, but then I go to Morocco and there are also so many scaries, but in different way. Because I feel like from Western from Eastern culture, we are not afraid by the same thing because we don't believe in the same thing.
Hmm.
So that changes the perspective of how to react to some events. And I was just thinking about this example that just happened 2 days ago. So I have my best friend, Alex, by the way, BJ, that you know because she was at my wedding. So she's French, full. I mean, with no origin like me, and she was making some pasta, and she took the hot water from the pasta. She just like pours the water, etc. And I told her, I grew up with this rule that if you pour very boiling water in the sink, you have to put also cold water, because there is this belief that all the bad entities are living in the pipe, in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in any place where there is like water running, they are here. So you can burn them, and they can get revenge if you're hurting them. And I mean,
Oh,
it was like so strong, those kind of stories and example when I was growing up, that even if I'm not believing it 100%, every time I have some boiling water to pour in a sink, I would like, why not just putting a bit of cold water just in case? So I'm like, I'm sure there's a part of it that still believe in that. So yeah, I mean, growing up with this double culture, I had to make a choice between what I believe, what I inherit from my parents, or my culture, what I want to keep, what I think is stupid, what I'm not sure, I still have to make my mind about. And I think it's a life journey to be like, okay, that is stupid, or this is maybe just, not real, and maybe no, this is maybe making sense, so I should be careful about that, etc. And I know it can sound stupid for someone who didn't grow up with this culture, but like, what are you saying? I mean, it's just like super hot water. What can happen to you? And yet, when I went to Morocco, I grew up with the stories about some people having like heart attack, or all of a sudden something happened to them, like a stroke or even a paralysis or something like that. And they were like, oh, he threw up very hot water somewhere.
I feel that because with my background, we believe in the evil eye. We call it the
Hmm.
ojo.
Yeah.
And as I got older and I got exposed to more cultures, I realized, wait, we're not the only one. Like, the Greeks also have, their evil eye ward. And so, but it is funny when you come across people who haven't been exposed to that, and you're
Hmm.
like, I don't know if I really believe it, but part of me is like, let's not risk it. Just in case.
Yeah, I mean, we do have the evil eyes too. In all North Africa and Morocco, it's a strong, strong belief. And I mean, it's weird because then I wonder, are things that happening that can convince me that it is true or happening because of auto-prophetic,
Mhm.
like someone bought a new car and he is like kind of bragging about the new car, and 5 minutes after he just like breaking the car or having an accident or stuff like that. I mean, I had so many examples like that, where I'm like, oh, wow, is it real, or are we just paranoid trying to blame someone or blame something, or it's just life?
Trying to find like a pattern in the
Yeah,
chaos.
exactly. We were visiting a family. I mean, I'm just saying this example to tell how much it was close. It was not
Mhm.
like, oh, I heard it's someone who
Mhm.
knows someone who knows someone. It was not like really my relative, my friends, my parents' friends. So we were visiting an uncle with his kids, and we were like more or less the same age. And my parents, I mean, the two family were kind of not rival, but they were like, family issues and not great ambience all the time. Anyway, one of my cousins told to my sister that is very tall, like she was like, "Oh wow, you are so tall." And on the opposite, she was kind of a small girl. She was, I think, 22, something like that, and very short. And I mean, we knew she was kind of insecure about that. She was always wearing very tall heels. Anyway, and she made a bad jokes about my sister, something like, is your dad is giving you like a plant seeds to make you tall that way?" And she started laughing, etc. Anyway, my sister was like, never mind, bad jokes. Anyway, the moment we came back home, she fell from our home stairs, like the whole stair, like she just like rolled and fall. And I mean, it was our home, family home. I mean, we've been growing up and used to climb the stairs and to run to the stairs, so we never fall on the stairs. And she just like broke her legs so bad, and it took her like years to recover from that. Like years after, she from time to time were having this really knee injury that was coming from this time. And my mom was like, it's crazy because everyone heard the joke because she was insisting, and it was, kind of mean. And I was like, no, come on, it's just a coincidence. And you can also look at it on the other way, like, was she having like so much energy saying that because also our both family were having some, family issues, arguments, that she had the power to do that, or is it just a coincidence? And we will never know. But I have tons of examples like that where people are just like, I think it's evil eyes.
And it's funny how much people won't believe in something, but they'll believe in another. So, people can they'll believe in like possession, but they and like demonic things, but they won't believe in ghosts, or they believe that, in witchcraft, but they don't believe in evil eye. And it's like, it's, to me at least, it all kind of comes from the same place. So, in terms of like the ability to manifest things by energy and like intentional energy. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And what I like, when I met BJ and when I had the opportunity to speak with all of his guests and friends, what I really appreciated is the feeling of everyone is respecting each other belief or not belief. I mean, I never felt like, people were like, what are you saying? I mean, where she's coming from, she's crazy with her story. And, because as you can say, you can be more or less convinced by something because you didn't experience it or because it's too, I mean, out of what you are used to, etc. But in the same time, every time I had a talk with BJ and friends or guests of his podcast, I we always felt like we are all heard and all respecting each other experience and belief. And this is very nice. So
Completely
Yeah.
agree. I love that about these conversations and
mm,
podcasts, right? They give you a space to talk about things, even if I don't fully believe what someone's
exactly.
saying, or
Mm-hmm.
like I don't believe in it in terms of I'm not sure if that's possible. I'm still open to
Mm-hmm.
hearing the story and the experience.
Well, that and
Yeah.
like I think it's important to just learn, right? Like a lot of the stuff that we've been going over, it's new, right? It's new to the listeners, it's new to us. I mean, we have certain variations, like we hear these stories from other people, and the weird thing is a lot of them are similar. So we start hearing these things and we're like, okay, like I mean, I don't know if that's proof or if, again, if it's a coincidence or, but the fact that a lot of people keep saying these things, there's something to it. And for me, I just like to hear it and, kind of experience it through other people, right? Because we can't always have our own paranormal experiences and see ghosts and deal with these situations like that story you just told. Like, that's a terrible situation. But like stuff like that happens, and to real people. It's not like a movie, right? These things actually do happen, and it's interesting to be able to kind of talk it out and hear what other people have to say about it. And again, without judgment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are some of your favorite films that you grew up with that really got you into the horror genre?
Me?
Yeah. You're
uh,
the special guest,
oh, thank
Shakira.
you. I think the first one I watched was Child Play. It's like the oldest in my memory, and my mom had the great idea to bought me like a doll for my birthday or Christmas. I don't remember, but like the doll that you see in horror movie, like very white in a, I don't know what this material is. The same material as some plate or glasses.
Oh, porcelain.
Porcelain. It's the same one in French. I thought it was different, but a porcelain doll, with real, with hair and like this eyelash, etc. And I was like, oh wow, I hate this. I don't want that. And I know it was, an expensive doll, etc. So for years and years and years, I was having nightmares of this doll because I was 100% convinced that she was not just a doll, but she was looking at me. She was, waiting for the occasion to be alone with me to do something. So yeah,
That's
this is,
terrifying.
yeah, I know, because my mom was like used to set it up in my bed, but in the way that I would always see her, like she was in front of my bed. I was sleeping like this with my my blanket up to my nose, and I would look, and she was like with her green eyes always staring at me, always, always. So yeah, that was awful. And my sister decided to make like a spirit session with a doll for her birthday. So She was inviting friends. My other sister was having friends too. And all of a sudden she was like, oh, let's make a spirit experience with the doll. And she put the doll in the middle. We were in circle around it. And she was saying something stupid like, spirit, spirit, if you are here, manifest yourself or something like that. And we are supposed to close our eyes. And of course, my sister, that was very, the one that fell in the sterilized way, who was very into jokes and she loved to make us scared. She just make the doll move. And we were all screaming, etc. And the moment I wanted to open the door, the knobs of the door stayed in my hand. And we were locked in my room with the doll.
No.
Bunch of girls screaming, and I was sure that the doll somehow made it so the knobs was staying in my hand.
So
And
what was it they said to the doll?
Oh, something like just spirit, spirit, if you are here, make a move, or
Okay, so it's like a paranormal game / investigation.
yeah. I think she just like hear it at school or in a movie. She was like, oh, let's do it with the doll. Great idea. And now I'm understanding how dangerous it is to play those games. But back then we were just like, hey, great idea. Let's do that.
Why not?
Yeah. So yeah, afraid of dolls for my whole life after that. And then, of course, it was the exorcism. And I didn't watch it because my mom was like, no, you are too young. So my two sisters went there with my cousins and they come back. And my sister was in shock. I mean, they were very young. In France, we are way more, how to say that, laxist. I mean, less severe with everything that is PG rated.
Oh, they're
If you
more
go to a
relaxed with the
movie,
ratings.
yeah, it's like they see you a 10 years old kid and you want to see a 16 rated movie, they wouldn't check. They were like, oh, come in, enjoy. Um, so yeah, I think it was 2001, right? The second edition. Because the first edition was 1963, the very first
First
time.
Exorcist? I think that was that 70 or
And
no?
I think the restored version was 2001, something like that.
Okay, The Exorcist 1973. So then I don't know when the restored would have been.
Or maybe it was just in France. Anyways, they were like 12 and 14, and I was 9. So they went to see the movie, they came back, and they were like frightened. And they told me the whole movie and what happened. I mean, they shared it with me. They're like, okay, you weren't able to join us, but this is what happened.
No.
And they told me about the stair scene,
Yes.
which is like backwards, going down the stairs. And I think it's my first, I mean, seeing my sister, so the one who's like very brave, I mean, at the same time very goofy, who always want to scare us, etc. Seeing the fear in her eyes, I was like, okay, it's something serious. And I remember this night, like I didn't sleep at all. I was thinking so much about the movie, about what they told me. And, they bring the poster from the movie theater. And even the poster, when you think about it, it's nothing. Like, yeah, it's a black house with a guy, but you don't think anything visual. But yet, I was terrified. And I start, feeling a weird feeling in my head. And I was like, I'm sure the entity or whatever it is knows that I'm thinking about it. And it's here, it's in my room. I'm 100 positive. I have like no doubt. And I think I experienced for the first time of my life like the real fear from something I didn't even see. I mean, like I felt like my chin was like all how to say that, like I felt the cold in my back. I was sweating. I was cold and hot in the same time. Like I was almost making myself physically sorry, from just being so afraid. And I think I will always remember that night. I was like waiting just for the day to come, so I would just like run to my parents. So
Now,
yeah,
do you think it scared you so much because you were raised in a culture that does believe
exactly.
strongly in possession and exorcisms?
Yeah. I mean, it was not a fantasy, like, I watched, I think, Alien before. And yes, it was
Hmm.
scary because I was young, but I was like, okay, this is not happening. This is not real. But for me, this is like, oh, it can happen. You know, there is something you can do anything about it. It's stronger than anyone. It's stronger than my dad. My dad is like the protection figure. Well, this entity is stronger than my dad. It's stronger than this, wall and roof that are supposed to protect me. No need to close the door. No need to be careful because it's stronger than that. It's like another universe, a parallel universe. You can do anything. And the things that the more I was like, because then I was afraid, but also fascinated by this subject. I mean, from this day, it's my favorite. Um, it's my favorite category of horror movie. And the more I watch about it and I, learn about it, the more I'm like, it's everything I learned growing up when I was going in Morocco. And they were telling me, yeah, this one, she is possessed. So sometimes it's like you can see it, I mean, it's okay. And sometimes you will see. And I saw some stuff at a wedding, for example. So yeah, I mean, in Africa and North Africa, and in this culture, we associate nightlife and music to bad spirits because, I mean, it's always the same idea. It's linked to bad energy. That doesn't mean that there is always bad energy, of course, in nightlife or when you're listening to, partying or stuff like that. But a lot of times there are people who can be drinking, can be frustrating about life, etc. So it was almost common when I was attending to wedding in Morocco to have at some point like a girl just starting to have like an attack because like she would like dance too much. And in Morocco there is like a huge how to say that, a huge belief, a huge link between dance music and spirits. It's linked since ages and ages. It's a way of all Moroccan people or witches to call the spirit and to invite them. So yeah, I was in a wedding and I mean, there were a lot of music, people were dancing a lot, and it's a lot of energy. I don't know if you've ever been to a wedding. I mean, maybe I think in South America it's almost the same as North Africa and Africa, but like it's a lot of dancing.
Hmm.
Like the food part and the more how to say that, it's about dancing, and it's a lot of energy. And sometimes, I mean, this time at least, I saw this girl who was, dancing and then dancing a bit too in a very repetitive way, like she was having kind of a crisis or something like that. And at some point, and so like people discreetly trying to contain her, to calm her, etc. And then I heard a scream. It was not her voice. I mean, she was a young girl, maybe 20, something like that. And I heard like a very thick voice with vibration, and she screamed. And she just like took a whole table, like a big wooden table with a lot of food and drinks and tea on it, and she just like sent the table like it was a frisbee across the room. And I was like, what has happened? And I was young, so I thought it was maybe a fight or something. But then we're like, no, it's mostly women dancing. So how she would have even the strength, with just one hand, because on the other hand, they were trying to calm her, etc. And so my mom just took me, apart, and then a crowd was around the girl trying to calm her and help her. And eventually they just took her away. I don't know where, maybe hospital, or maybe just to a room. I don't know. And I asked my mom, and when you're a kid, and you can tell when your parents are lying to you,
Yes.
that she was
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh no, she's just sick, she's just mentally healed, don't worry, etc. I'm like, hmm. And then on the way back home, I was pretending to be asleep. to be sleeping, sorry, and I hear my mom and my cousin and my older sister like, yeah, well, she's possessed, and it happened to her a lot when she's having, an emotional moment, good or bad. In this time, she started to have those crises, and it happened to her X years ago, etc. And I feel like I understood without understanding exactly what it was to be possessed, but just the word is like possession, like I'm possessing your body, like just the word you still understand, even if you can't when you're a kid really make the sense or really understand how it works. You still feel that it's something scary, something that should not happen. So I feel like I had a lot of these small events in Morocco when they were, oh, she is possessed, and it was often women. And growing up and watching a lot of possession movies, most of the time it's women, right? It's most of the time women. So I'm like, okay. Uh, so then, yeah, the voice that is changing. I saw that in Morocco before to learning that from possession movies. Of like, okay, I mean, it can be like just a coincidence, of, oh, let's say that one of the criteria to know if someone is possessed is having a different voice, etc., or knowing another language. I remember, yeah, I don't know if it was the same girl in Morocco,
This poor
but
girl.
saying that, yeah, she never been to school, she never been to anywhere, and she's all of a sudden sometimes speaking perfect German, for example. I think it was German, not even English, because English you can say, yeah, well, it's Morocco, everyone is learning French or English. And I was like, okay. So yeah, every time I was watching a movie and then going to Morocco, and the same time growing up and just having this capability to thinking by myself and making link, I was like, okay, this is existing.
This girl that was at the wedding, does she, because you said your mom mentioned that um, it had been something on and off she goes through. Do you think, or did they talk about, do they think it's the same entity spirit that she carries just consistently, or is it a new one constantly popping in?
No, it's the same one. And I mean, once again, it is the same belief is that most of the time, if we call them jinn, it's like bad entity,
Mhm.
is like choosing you, it's very hard to get away from it.
Got
Like
it.
it's choosing you. So it's like, most of the time, those girls that I grew up knowing they were labeled as possessed, they were never able to get married, first thing. They were never able to be happy, to fulfill a career, because their life was frequently be interrupted by those episodes of possession.
And this happens a lot, it sounds like, and that's unfortunate, right? I mean, for me, I haven't experienced anything really like that, but it sounds like, I mean, obviously it's a more common thing where you're from, and I don't know, is it just because people are practicing the dark magic and all the things over in that area? Is that it's just more welcome there? Because I remember you talked about that a little bit, where the practices there, it's very dark, and maybe that's part of it, right? More people are more susceptible to being possessed in that part of the world. You think that there's something to that?
First thing I would say is that I feel like countries that are more religious than another tend to have more of those cases, right? If you go to Italy, we hear more of possession cases than France, for example. And in Morocco, so people are very religious. But it's a very good point, Vijay. Morocco is worldwide famous as being a witchcraft country. And I didn't know that. I mean, I realized that when I arrived in Paris and I was like meeting people from other North African countries like Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt. I was like a Moroccan. I was like, oh, the witchcraft. I was like, okay. Or I was like, oh, the witch. Or they would say, oh, Harry Potter, And I was like, where's this come from? And then I called my mom. I was still young, 23, 24. I was like, Mom, is it true that us Moroccan, we are witch? And she was like, yeah, unfortunately, yes, the country is famous for that, and there is a reason. So they play a lot with black magic. So of course there is link because in those country, I mean, now of course it's less the case, but the stories I'm talking about were 50, 55 years ago, 20 years ago, etc. Not 50, sorry, 25 years ago and 30 years ago. And at that time, like in a lot of countries, were facing poverty, who were facing machismo, etc., getting married is one of the main way for a girl to have a better situation. It's something very important. I mean, girls have to get married to make their own family at a very young age. Now it's less the case, of course, because I mean the country is very developing, so girls are more likely to go to school to make studies, such as boys. But back then it was not exactly the same, so there were like this huge focus on making a good wedding. So there were a lot of stories that were happening during weddings. There was a very personal story about one of my best friend cousins, so that was living in Morocco, and you know she had like only relationships that were ending in a dramatic way, like the guy would just disappear, vanish with no reason. A second one that was her fiance like died 2 days before the wedding. And those things are true because I was part of it. They were living like in the same building as my cousin, so we are like preparing the wedding, etc. She was like super happy, I'm getting married, etc. 2 days before, the guy just died. And she was like repeatedly having this kind of weird story or dramatic issues. So she went to see a medium that told her, well, you have a witchcraft on you. And someone who hates you, we don't know why, just made a witchcraft so we'll never be happy and married. And till today, she is single, alone. She's older than me. I mean, I think she's like maybe 20 years older than me or something like that. So once again, you can say just fate, nothing, weird about that. It can happen. Or maybe she's so convinced that there is something wrong with her that she's just not, she's herself self-sabotaging her own relationship. Or maybe just true. You can know. And the thing that I was saying last time is like in cemeteries in Morocco, most of the time you will find some witchcraft, and it's like pictures of people with things written in blood, with a lot of symbolism, with animal bones, and it's still happening to very recently. People really believe in that and are ready to pay a lot of money to plan something bad for someone, or maybe to, I don't know, try to change their life or improve it. We don't know, but it's really something that is happening in Morocco. So yeah, maybe just like a perfect floor for these bad entities to take more space and to um, do bad things.
That's insane. That's very intense, and it's scary to think about that stuff is going on currently and all the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to kind of circle back to something that you said, BJ, and um, I'm trying to think of the most gentle way to say it. I don't necessarily agree with the line of thinking that because you haven't experienced it here means it is not as common here. Um, because it's not normalized here. It's normalized to talk about possession. It's normalized to talk about occult practices in other countries. It sounds like it's normalized in Morocco, and it's normalized in South American countries. It's normalized in Mexico and Brazil and like other places. But that doesn't mean that, oh, because they're doing it, they're possessed more. I think we just don't talk about what happens here, but I think people still do it. I mean, if you look at Catholicism and Christianity and evangelical churches in Christianity, people talk about speaking in tongues and being overcome by the Holy Spirit all the time, which is essentially it's a form of possession. We've got instances of it that are considered positive. So you've got Haitian voodoo, which we've talked about. You've got other practices that consider it a positive thing to allow spirits to take over your body. So I don't think it's any heavier necessarily. It may be, but I don't think it is any heavier. And it's hard to make that assumption because it's not normalized here to talk about it. If you talk about it here, you're considered crazy, you're considered woo woo, you're considered all of these things. So people don't talk about it. It doesn't mean the possession isn't happening.
Exactly.
I just think we're not hearing about it because we don't talk about it.
Yeah, my
Right.
point was more the people will not mention it as possession cases.
Mm-hmm.
They will more mention it as schizophrenia, mental illness, etc.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I say in Italy you can more openly hear about possession. Here in France, for example, if you say that, I think 80% of the people like, what are you talking about? Just mental illness.
Yeah.
And maybe in Morocco, if you bring someone who has a mental illness, they're like, oh, maybe check if he's not possessed. So I feel like it's just matter of point of view, and
Yeah.
this is why now it's great to feel free to talk about that. But I feel like when I was younger and we didn't have this this option of communication with the rest of the world, I would never ever mention what I was seeing in Morocco to my French schoolmate. No way I will be labeled as a crazy, weird girl. It was like, no way. And even till today, you're right, Ashley. It's not easy to just openly speak about it.
Well, even in a place where it is accepted. So you kind of said so yourself with the wedding story, where even where it would be acceptable to talk about it to an extent, or at least admit that's what they think it is. They're like, oh, it's a mental health crisis. And then they didn't talk about it until they were in a very private setting. So I
Yeah.
think like it's possible that's happening all around the world. And it's just not being called that, or it's not being acknowledged as that. Because the other side to that is they're more open about talking about the dark practices that are going on in Morocco. That's happening here too. They just don't talk about it.
Okay, so I don't know if BJ you mentioned last time, but when we were talking about witchcraft, I mentioned this story in the French football team. So football for us in France is as big as, I don't know, American football for the US or baseball. So anyways, there was this scandal about one of the team player for the French team was paying a lot of money to do some witchcraft on Kylian Mbappe. And yeah, it was a huge scandal, and everyone was taking the case very seriously because they know it's happening, even if some of them were like laughing and like, okay, but it's still happening. And then they were discussing it like on the TV, etc., and even on the news. And one of the like a journalist said, you can't imagine how many politicians are paying to do witchcraft to their competitors. It was like you don't imagine how much of money it's representing. It's a real parallel economy. It's happening. And then some other scandal were shown up, like a stupid TV reality show. A celebrity was doing the same for one of the, I don't know, other girl who was trying to take too much attention, or I don't know. And we have the footage. She's in conversation with one of the witch, and she was telling her what to say, what to do. And so yeah, like even in France, has there big immigration from Africa, from North Africa. I mean, this culture and this practice also crossed the Mediterranean and arrived in Europe.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to throw us back to season 1. But let's not forget Etsy. There are people selling spells and curses and enchanted items on Etsy. And, you look at their reviews and you look at their ratings, and these people have tens of thousands of reviews. So somebody's buying them. And and some of it's dark, some of it's consider more light magic, like you want a self-love spell to heal, and others are like you want to curse somebody and destroy somebody. That's there too. And it's like they have a lot of purchases, so people are buying them, they're just not talking about it, and these are US purchases. So I think it's
Oh
heavier
yeah.
here than you think.
I don't think I think I was maybe misspeaking. I don't think that it doesn't happen here, right? Like, and I think Ashley's made very good points that obviously it happens a lot. It's maybe not as big in pop culture here, right? Like it's not as represented, right, in social media and mass media. It's like, oh, this person is super rich because they had these spells that they were doing, right? Like it's maybe not in that realm. Like maybe it's more apparent in pop culture, or not pop culture, just culture in general, in the other places. But like you're right, I mean, it happens everywhere, and either it goes by a different name, or it's people aren't talking about it as much. But yeah, I mean, especially America, I mean, has a full of every culture, right? There's all different walks of life, and they would maybe call it different things, right? Whether it be voodoo, whether it be possession, witchcraft, whatever you want to call it. It is something else. But I think my thing is that I like talking about it from the Moroccan perspective is just that there are things that I have heard that over there that I just haven't heard here. That doesn't say that it doesn't happen here. I just haven't heard it. Specifically, like the football thing that you just talked about, the soccer thing, or even there was another one you talked about the children with the special gifts, right? But I'm sure that happens everywhere too. But it's crazy. I just like to learn about that perspective. But Ashley's right. I mean, it does happen everywhere.
It wasn't so much discrediting that it happens there. It's the idea that, well, I haven't heard about it here, so it's not a big thing here. And for me, it's your scope is limited because you are tied to a wonderful person who's tied directly into that world from Morocco. So you're able to hear about it more, but maybe that tie isn't here. But that doesn't necessarily mean it isn't prevalent or doesn't exist, if that makes sense. You just got to find the ties here too. But I'm with you. It is amazing to hear about other cultures and how they perceive, receive, and handle, possession and like I don't want to call it witchcraft, but occult practices, and also exorcisms, which your cousin performs exorcisms, right?
Yeah.
Now, how long have they been doing that?
So just so you have a bit of background for him, it's funny because so he was like the cliche of this spoiled only boy of the family, being lazy, dropping school, and each year when we were going to Morocco, he had like a new hobby. Like one time it was summer, he was like, "Oh yeah, I dropped school, and now I'm making like dog breeding. It's my job." It's like, okay, next year we arrived. We're like, oh no, I dropped dog breeding. Now I'm doing fishing. It's gonna be my life, my job. So he was like this funny lost boy who had like different hobby, a bit lazy, a bit spoiled. And then, I mean, I stopped going to Morocco just because I wanted to visit some other place. I was like, adult enough to travel without my parents, having enough money to discover other countries, and it was great. And then I came back to Morocco to see my family. And my mom was like, okay, we're going to see your cousin. I have to warn you, he's not the same anymore. He's way more mature now, and he's performing exorcism and helping people. I was like, oh, wow, okay. And at that point, I was already really into our movies and the subject. So I was like, I couldn't wait just to sit with him and talk to him. And yeah, he was telling me how much it's very more common than we think, even in Morocco. It's like I'm always having some cold. And then, it's working from reputation. So sometimes he would have the call from someone who tell me, hey, one person told me you were able to help them, so I would like you to come to this city because I have a girl who has this issue. Um, so yeah, it was very intense because he was. I mean, I trust him even if as a young person he was like a bit. I don't know. I mean, he was not mean, just not as serious as the rest of the family, but nothing crazy. I just saw the change in him because he told me how much those things change him. I mean, it was like I just it's very humbling to see that you are nothing when you have in front of you something that you don't master at all, something that is beyond your capacity. And so, like, the only thing we can do is just praying, and performing exorcism to help the person. And sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes it works, sometimes not. Sometimes we need to come back. He says there is no perfect rules. I would be lying if I say, yeah, I know exactly how to do it, and then it works, and then the person is happy. He says, no, it just something a bit, yeah, it's out of our control. So he was telling me that the most shocking thing that he saw was a girl crying blood, and he felt like really scared. He was like, so was, you know, keep praying and asking for God's help to help her, etc. It's like, but you can just feel the atmosphere in the room changing so much. And what else he told me? He said, yeah, the common thing I'm seeing, just like this super strength, like nothing maybe like spectacular that we can see in the movie. You just see like the strength is unbelievable. He's like most of the time it's girls that's a bit how to say that skinny because they're not eating anymore. They're also facing depression because most of the time it's isolating you from social life. Being like, yeah, no matter when I can just have one of these possession crises, so I would just lock myself in my home where I cannot be judged, where I'll be safe with my parents. So yeah, he said like most of the time you can tell the person is not feeling well mentally and physically, and yet when they are having those possession crises, they are like super super strong, and they will try to hit you to just move or jump, etc. And most of the time, even 3 or 4 big men is not enough to calm them and to keep them still. So I think you know I mean, I would have loved to just join him to one of them, but I mean, and at the same time, I was like, I don't think I'm ready to. Maybe I will regret it. Um, and also, I kind of felt bad because I was like, maybe it just bad curiosity, but you have someone who is suffering during this moment. So I was also questioning my motivation. And also, I'm just like so much thinking for one thing to see now as an adult who is not just a memory for a kid, to just remove this tiny little doubts that I can have. So, yeah, this is what I can say about it.
No, I love the empathy that you just expressed because, like, that's a really solid point. Sometimes we get so caught up in, like, well, I have to know, and our
Yeah.
curiosity, we forget, like you said, that was perfectly said. Like, there's someone hurting
Hmm.
and going through something really traumatic. And whether some people believe it's all psychological or it truly is another entity, like, they are still going through something really devastating. And it's important to remember that. Absolutely.
And it's changing like the whole family life. And yeah, he told me that you enter in this home and you can tell that everyone is impacted. Even if it's only one person who is possessed, everyone is impacting. Usually the parents, the sister or brother are not sleeping because they are, always in alert. Like, I have to keep my ears open, my eyes, half closed because we don't know what can happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. Did he explain how he got into it?
Um, well, I think it happened. I mean, I don't know the fully reason why he did this choice, but her mom told that he was a bit lost, having some trouble, nothing serious, but like I think he had some trouble with the police, being doing some, I don't know exactly, some fraud or something like that. So he had like this how to say that, this moment where he was like, okay, I need to change something in my life, and he started to be more and more religious, and to pray more and to go to the mosque, etc. And he started to be friends with someone, was I was just speaking with each other and trying starting to be real friends. And at some point he told him, look, I know you are looking for something to do, I know you want to bring a sense to your life, etc. My uncle is doing that, he's getting old, I know he would love to have someone young to come with him and to help him to perform exorcism. And first time he told that to his parents, I mean, her mom was like laughing, like, "What are you saying? This is not serious." And yeah, then he just thought and did it, and I think he was for the first time just seeing the value of something he can do, like just things that he can help someone, and it's just making so many sense because now it's like almost a different person. It's like going to from an extreme of being selfish and just enjoying life without thinking of the consequences to dedicating his life to that because he's not paid. I mean, people are giving whatever they want to give, but it's not like, oh, you have to pay this, so we do that. It's not working like that. It's like more community helping, and sometimes people doesn't have much to give, so it's like help as you can.
It's really powerful.
Yeah, it's super tough to navigate, right? Like, obviously you want your proof, but you also, the people are hurting, and you're also, and I think it's great. I think he's, doing a good thing. He's helping people out, right? That need it. And whether you believe or not, like, you do what you can for your family to help them because you don't want them to suffer anymore. And like you said, it affects everybody, and that's another thing that gets lost. It's not just the one person, it's the entire family, and they're all just trying to pull together and get past it, right? And it's not something that, it's not entertainment. It's more than that. It's your whole life, it's your whole family dynamic. And that's tough. It's a very, very serious thing. And I don't know if we understand that fully, because we're not in it, right? How can you understand something, unless you're in it fully, right? And so I think that that is important to, when you talk about these things, it's got to be from a serious perspective with respect, right? Because there are people who have to deal with this every day.
Yeah, I mean, even my speech, when I start to talk about him, first time I was like, oh, so tell me what is the most impressive thing you have seen when you were doing that, to, oh, wow, this is a serious matter. It's not just Hollywood being like a show off of what can be impressive and scary. I mean, when it's about real life, you look at it in a different way. And you also think about how serious those things can be. You were talking, Ashley, about, those witchcraft or spell you can buy on Etsy.
Yeah.
I remember, the Ouija boards that you can
Yes.
buy anywhere. And I remember seeing one from for kids. In France, like they were selling a small Ouija board for kids. And like, this is crazy.
Yeah, like a Hello Kitty Ouija board, right?
I mean, it's becoming normalized over here in a way that's a little concerning because, you go to a bookstore, you go to a novelty shop, and they've got like Ouija boards, and they're like, yeah, come and play, summon your own demon. And it's like, hold on. And it is Hello Kitty. It is like, I've legit seen Hello Kitty, like occult items. I've seen them use like cutesy things to make it appealing and like harmless. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh gosh, I hope you guys know how to do Barbie exorcisms. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that jinn is part of the Moroccan culture and they are typically what possess people. In the Moroccan belief system, where do jinn come from? What exactly are they?
So they are coming from, so it's more from a religious point of view, and then the culture take it and made it their own way. But religiously, they are like so human, and those entities that are not human, they are jinns and not always bad. It's same as humans. They have their, how to say that, their own choice to make if they want to be good or bad. They are living with us. We don't see them. We're not supposed to see them, but some of them will cross the line to reach out, or some of them will be caught by human. And it's completely different from ghosts, like when someone died and there is like his spirit who still want to connect with their relatives or etc. It's two different things from this religious point of view. They are entities, good or bad, and they are living with us from the beginning.
Now, earlier you mentioned spirits are in like the pipe systems, like the entities. Do you happen to know why or what the belief is, why they are like exist in those spaces?
Yeah, it's a very how to say that. A very simple explanation is that where there is water, there is life. So this
Ah.
is where they are. I mean, in the origin, it's you know, yeah, when there were like no running water, just some rivers, some how do you call it? Wesley, how do you say un puits? Un puits. You know when you drag the water. A well. Yeah, asking my American husband to help me with with my vocabulary. So yeah, people will go through till those places to get water. So it's really at the origin. This is what happened, and it was attracting to humans. So it was a perfect place for the jinns to manifest themselves and to uh, contact human. And I have a personal story in my family. So it's my grandmother. I mean, I think I can tell the story, even if, I mean, rest in peace. But when she was 14, so it's like a well known story in my whole family. So she went through field to river just to bring water. So it was in, I think, 1930, something like that, in Morocco. And she was alone and she just took a stick and for fun she just like, I mean, her friends were coming to take some water, and for fun she just took her stick and just was like messing with the water, so it will be like more dusty for her friends. So anyway, she came back, and when she came back, like the night of this specific day, uh, she just like black out for several days. So they bring a doctor, they bring yeah, doctor, and they were like nothing to say, like she seemed perfectly fine. We don't know why. So last thing to do when the doctor doesn't have the solution is to bring an exorcism or someone from the mosque who can help and bring a solution. And he had like, I mean, he touched her hand, sorry, and he had like this kind of shaking, and it was like someone talked to me, like an entity spoke to me and told me one day, like the day where she just blacked out, she took her stick and she hurt one of us, or she disturbed one of us. So as a revenge, the mom of the entity made her sick. So it's either the entity is recovering from that, which is weird because I don't think that there is a physical material to the entity, and she will be fine, either she doesn't. And she stayed in kind of coma for 2 or 3 weeks, and then she woke up. And my whole family knows this story because it was like the big thing that happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So yeah, we always had this advice, like, with water, with bathroom, and especially if you are in the countryside. If you're in a city, that's fine, but if you're in a countryside and there is water, be very careful with what we are doing and try to not go there at night and try to, not walk and making too much noise. A lot of advice or rule when it's about, being in countryside and around water.
Respecting the elementals in nature.
Yeah,
Wow. That's,
exactly. Don't mess with them.
yeah, don't mess with them.
Ask for permission, right? That's like, be
Consent.
like, can we use the water, right? Like that kind of thing. Or just bring your own
Exactly. No,
water.
you're very right.
I mean, you see similarities of that with like Native Americans in the US, right? They give blessings before they harvest tobacco, before they harvest sage. They ask permission, they give the blessings, and then, the gratitude. So, like, there is that respect for the spirits
Hmm.
within nature across multiple cultures. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, when you deep dive, in fact, it just like, okay, let's respect the fact that we are both living on Earth, maybe in a parallel dimension, but we are both, I mean, humans and entities. So let's try to not think that we are alone, that we can do everything we want, etc. I mean, recently I just made a link with something that my mom is doing. My mom, when we arrive in our home, even if it's empty, she would make a salutation. And I was like, Mom, it's empty. There is no one. Who are you greeting? And she was like, Well, if there is someone that we don't see, I'm greeting them. I'm being polite. I'm not like, I'm not arrogant, be like, oh, this is my house. This is what. And I was like, okay. And recently I heard a podcast about a French medium who said, I'm always, always, no matter where I arrive, even if it's empty, I'm saying hello, and when I leave, I'm saying goodbye. And say you don't know how much trouble I'm just avoiding by just being very polite, and because there is most of the time, especially in an old country like France, there is an entity or ghost or someone in those walls, in these roofs, in this area. I was like, okay, so maybe my mom had a
She's
point.
onto something
To
there.
do. Yeah.
That's really cool. Now, you guys, obviously, you have a podcast together. Do you have any other projects that you work on, or is it primarily just the podcast?
I know that BJ, you have a lot of podcasts planned and going on, and for my part, I'm writing a horror book.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I started like long time ago. I made a huge break, and then I decided to restart again, and I'm trying to put this different stories, culture, and include some just when I'm sharing with someone and it's bring me a feeling, it's bring me an idea. I'm trying just to concentrate that in a book and also to make an awareness about how dangerous it can be, even if it's attractive to deep dive into those subjects.
That's amazing. Please keep us in the loop on like when that comes
I
together and
will.
it's
Thank
coming
you.
out. I would
I
love to
will.
read it. Love to read it and share it.
I would love that. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys. Do we have any final thoughts before we wrap this awesome episode up?
Not really. I just want to say thank you for coming on. I know, it's sometimes hard with the 8 hour time difference and all of the things, but I really appreciate your perspective. Appreciate your perspective and just everything that you came with today. I mean, I think it's very eye opening for a lot of people that just don't talk about these sorts of things, and I think this is a good safe space for us to do that. And I think the big thing that draws me, that the reason I like you so much is because you are very respectful, you are very open minded, but you're not like, you're not trying to do it in a way that's self fulfilling, right? It's more about curiosity. It's less about trying to get famous or anything like that, right? It's just more about um the curiosity, which I think we both share and all of us share, and I think that's cool.
Well, I'm glad you like it. It's always a pleasure to, yeah, share with you guys and to feel not judged because, as I said, I mean, there were a time in my life where I would have never be free or feel safe to share that, or maybe just maybe with someone with the same background as me. And now I feel like, I like the fact that everyone is just evolving and opening their mind, and they're just accepting that there's, other things that can happen, even if it's not 100% true, or maybe it's like we don't believe in it, just okay, interesting, and just making the link, sorry, between different culture. It just brings us together, in fact. Like, wow, even in our belief and in our how to say that, in the dark sides of our culture and stories, at the end we are sharing the same thing. It's the same fears, it's the same risk. It's we are not that far from each other.
Yeah, and I appreciate your willingness to be open with us about your experiences and the different, facets of your culture. And I know you can only capture so much in an hour about a culture, but the fact that you're willing to share is just lovely. And being able to talk to someone about culture and their specific culture and how they grew up is phenomenal because you can start to really identify how things are similar and really connect in that way, but also celebrate the differences. And I really appreciate that you're willing to come on and share that. And I hope we can have you on again because I feel like there's just so much more we can
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah, this is always the feeling we have with DJ. We are like ending the podcast, like, wow, there's so much I still want to share and we want to discuss or ask question about.
Yes. But yeah, I think this was just really awesome and a great experience. And I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, John Thomas. Any thoughts? You want to bring us home?
No, again, just thank you for coming on. The time difference I know is huge, and we appreciate everything that you've told us. And like Ashley said, definitely would love to have you on again when we can. So thank you again. Thank you to all of our listeners for listening to this episode of 3Haunted Podcast with your hosts. I'm John Thomas.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
And I'm BJ Segura.
And I'm
If
Chakira.
you have any questions, comments, or episode suggestions, please feel free to email us at 3hauntedpodcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so already, please like and follow and subscribe to all of our social media. You don't want to miss amazing guests like Miss Shakira here.
Also, don't forget to check out 300podcast.com where you'll find all of our past and current season episodes as well as guest information and all kinds of awesome merch.
Until next time.